Imagine you wake up one morning and your savings are gone. Not part of them, not half, all of it. And when you call the bank, they say, "We cannot explain where it went. Sorry," and they hang up. Now remove the word your. Replace it with the word country. $21 trillion gone, and the world shrugged and moved on. That is not a metaphor. That actually happened. And I know where the money went, because I found the invoice 3 hours ago in the archive of this ship. And what I am about to tell you is going to make you angry. Good. Stay angry. It is the only rational response. My name is Captain Arthur Vance. I am alone on the deep space vessel Manticore. And tonight, I am not reading about ancient bloodlines or sleeping giants or the door that Jack Parsons opened in 1946. Tonight, I found a spreadsheet, and a spreadsheet just broke me more than any of it. I have been sitting in the financial records bay for 3 hours with the lights off, not because I am hiding, because I could not make myself get up. There is a specific kind of nausea that comes with understanding something you cannot ununderstand. I know that feeling well by now. This is the worst it has been. Let me start with something real. Something that happened in public. Something that was on camera. On the September 2001, the day before the world changed, Rumsfeld stood at a podium inside the Pentagon and said the following words. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. He said that on camera to reporters. $2.3 trillion missing, untracked. Gone from the books of the largest military organization in human history. The next morning, September, the section of the Pentagon that housed the financial analysts investigating those missing funds was destroyed. The Office of Naval Intelligence, the budget analysts, the accountants who had been pulling on that thread, they were the majority of the Pentagon's casualties that day. I'm not telling you what that means. I'm telling you what it is. A statement was made on the 10th of September. The people whose job was to find the answer were dead by September 12th. The story moved on to other things. And in the Manticore's archive, buried in a document labeled Infrastructure Allocation Phase 2, there is a single line added after the main body was compiled. It reads, Audit risk eliminated. Phase 2 funding secured. September 2001. I have been staring at that line for an hour. I keep reading it. I keep hoping it says something different. It does not. Now I need to tell you about the 21 trillion. Because 2.3 trillion was just the part they accidentally let slip. In 2017, a professor of economics at Michigan State University named Dr. Mark Skidmore published a peer-reviewed academic paper, not a blog post, not a YouTube video, a peer-reviewed paper in an academic journal. He and his team had spent months analyzing the Office of Inspector General reports from the Army and the Air Force, public documents, available to anyone with an internet connection and enough patience to read them. And in those documents they found unsupported accounting adjustments, totaling $21 trillion over 17 years. I want to make sure you understand what unsupported adjustment means. Because it sounds like a technical term. It is not. Imagine your monthly budget does not balance. You spent more than you made, but you cannot find where the extra money went. So you just write a number in the margin that makes the columns add up. You plug the gap. You do not explain the gap. You do not investigate the gap. You just make it mathematically disappear on paper. That is what the Pentagon did, not once, not as a one-time error, for 17 consecutive years, to the tune of $21 trillion. Skidmore presented his findings to anyone who would sit still long enough to listen. He went on television. He testified to congressional staff. He walked reporters through the methodology step by step. He explained it patiently, carefully, without embellishment. He did not claim to know where the money went. He only claimed that according to the government's own published documents, $21 trillion had been adjusted out of existence without explanation. The story ran for 48 hours. Then it disappeared, not because it was debunked, not because anyone found a mistake in his numbers, not because a government official came forward with an innocent explanation. It disappeared because 21 trillion is a number too large for most human minds to do anything with. It produces paralysis. A what can you do? That is just how it is. Someone would have done something if it were really that bad. They knew that when they chose the budget. The number was not an accident. The scale was the protection. Here is where it stops being abstract. Here is where I stopped being able to breathe normally while reading. The Army's financial statements showed $6.5 trillion in unsupported adjustments in a single year. 1 year. The Army's entire published annual budget is around $120 billion. That means the adjustments in 1 year were 54 times the actual budget. 54 times. I keep coming back to that. 54 times. You do not misplace 54 times your annual budget through incompetence. You do not accidentally lose 54 times your annual budget through bureaucratic inefficiency. No system of bad record keeping, no series of honest mistakes, no accumulation of administrative failures produces a number like that. That money went somewhere. It was directed somewhere. Deliberately. Through a financial architecture specifically designed to be invisible to anyone looking at the published documents. And I know where it went, because I have the infrastructure allocation document open on my terminal right now. The money funded a construction project in orbit, a construction project that has been running since approximately 1954. And I can see the finished structure from the viewport of this ship. It is at bearing 274. It is 212 kilometers at its longest dimension, and it looks like a cathedral. The infrastructure allocation document is the most mundane-looking file in the Manticore's archive. Rows and columns, dates and vendor codes, project designations in alphanumeric format. The kind of document that a government auditor would flip past looking for something more interesting, which is exactly why it survived. It hid in plain sight inside the most boring section of the most boring kind of file. I almost did not open it. I was scanning for something else entirely when the project code caught my eye. 2 letters I recognized from another file. I almost kept scrolling. I am glad I did not. The line item that stopped me reads as follows: Collection Point Superstructure, Phase 2, Vision. Estimated cost, $847 billion. Funding source, DAF-7, Unsupported Adjustment Pool. Completion date, classified, DAF-7. I cross-referenced that code. It appears in the Inspector General reports that Skidmore analyzed. It is one of the adjustment pools that contributes to the $21,847 billion for Phase 2 alone, funded by money that officially does not exist, built in orbit, built over decades, built by people who officially never went there. I want to pause here. Because before I found the maintenance logs, I told myself there might be an innocent explanation, not a good one, not a comfortable one, but maybe some black budget program that was genuinely about defense, maybe something that could be justified if you accepted certain premises about geopolitics. I told myself that because I needed a minute before I kept reading. I took the minute, then I kept reading. And that is where the innocent explanations stopped being available. The maintenance logs. I almost missed them. They looked like spare parts requisitions, food allocation records, medical supply orders, The kind of logistical paperwork that exists in the background of any large operation, and that nobody reads except the people who have to. But when I cross-referenced the project codes against the infrastructure allocation document, something emerged. The maintenance logs, not maintenance logs. They are personnel records. Records of the people who built the cathedral, not machines, not automated systems. Human beings, people who were transferred to something the document calls the construction station, who received food allocations and medical care and psychological support services, who worked in rotating shifts over 30 years. I found myself trying to picture them, the morning briefings, the lunch breaks, the letters home that probably said nothing because they could not say anything real, the retirements they were promised, the families waiting. And then I found the column, the one that stopped everything. It is labeled transition. Every crew member who spent more than 18 months at the construction station has a transition entry, every single one, no exceptions. And after the transition entry, there are no return transfers, no medical follow-ups, no pension records, no discharge paperwork, no names in any subsequent document. They went to the construction station, they built what needed to be built, and then they transitioned. I know what transition means. I have seen it. I have seen it on the faces of 15 people I served with on this vessel. The peaceful faces. The faces of people who had been given an answer they could finally accept. But there is a difference between choosing and being directed. There is a difference between a mind that opens and a mind that is opened. The construction workers did not just build the cathedral. The cathedral processed them. The people who built it were the first harvest. And the $21 trillion bought both the structure and the return on investment. I need to tell you about something else in the archive, something that connects to a signal I found in log 13 and did not fully understand until tonight. Nikola Tesla intercepted an unknown signal in 1899. He was working out of Colorado Springs, running high-frequency experiments, and he received something he could not explain, a transmission. Repeating, structured, he believed it was extraterrestrial in origin. He noted the interval at which it repeated, 11 seconds. In 1954, the United States Air Force logged an anomalous object in polar orbit, an object that did not belong to any known program, American or Soviet. It was tracked, studied, photographed. The photographs were eventually released, and then the official explanation became a thermal blanket lost during a 1958 spacewalk, a blanket in polar orbit, transmitting on an 11-second interval for what they later determined was approximately 13,000 years. That object is in the archive too. It is called the Black Knight file. I opened it in log 13. When I opened it, the satellite reoriented toward the Manticore. It has been pointing at this ship ever since. And what I found tonight, buried in the infrastructure allocation document, is that the Black Knight signal was used as a navigation reference. The people who planned the cathedral's orbital position used the Black Knight's position as a fixed point. It was not random. Nothing about where that structure is positioned was random. A cathedral sits at a precise angle relative to the Black Knight, an angle that Tesla's original signal analysis suggested was geometrically significant. He did not know what he was describing. He wrote it down anyway, and someone read it and built accordingly. There is a woman named Catherine Austin Fitz. She served as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under the first Bush administration. Not a researcher, not a podcaster, a cabinet-level official with security clearance and budget authority. She left government and spent years trying to understand what she had seen from the inside. She has a phrase for it. She calls it the tapeworm economy. A tapeworm does not announce itself. It does not attack. It lives quietly inside its host, absorbing a portion of everything the host consumes. Not enough to cause immediate symptoms, just enough to grow. Slowly, over years, over decades, the host keeps functioning. The host may not even know it is there, but the host gets thinner, more tired, less capable than it used to be, less able to do the things that once felt easy, and the tapeworm gets larger. Fitz said, "There is enough missing money to have built a parallel economy, a parallel world, operating entirely outside public oversight." She said, "Physical infrastructure, on a scale that would be visible if anyone knew where to look. The 21 trillion is the tapeworm." It did not leave the economy obviously depleted in any single year. It left quietly, in annual increments, in adjustment pools and unsupported figures, and reformatted Inspector General reports. It built something enormous in a place where no one could see it being built, using people who officially were never there, and processing those people through a system whose return on investment is measured in something that should not be a unit of measurement. I need to tell you about the subledger. Hidden inside the infrastructure allocation document is a working document, the kind that only exists internally and would never be submitted to anyone outside the project. The subledger tracks return on investment, ROI, for a construction project. That already struck me as strange. Construction projects do not generate returns in the traditional sense. You build a road, and the road does not produce revenue. You build a dam, and the electricity is the return, but the dam itself is just infrastructure. What is the return on investment for a 212-kilometer structure in deep space? The ROI column has figures in it, positive figures, growing steadily across both phases, Phase 1, Phase 2, projections for what they are calling Phase 3, and the column header describes what is being measured. It says, consciousness units processed, not tons of material assembled, not mission objectives achieved, not strategic deterrence value. Consciousness units processed. The return on $21 trillion is measured in human minds. The construction workers who built the cathedral were not just labor force. They were the proof of concept, the first test of the system, the data that confirmed the cathedral could do what it was built to do. And the return on investment projections in the subledger describe the scaling operation. The Phase 3 number is not labeled with a unit, I recognize, but it is large. And it is described as sufficient for completion of the original design. I think about the people in Cargo Hold 7 while I read that. I think about the transition entries. I think about 30 years of personnel rotations and food allocations and psychological support services. And I think they consider this profitable. They ran the numbers. The numbers came back positive, and they kept going. There is one more thing, the last thing, the thing I have been sitting with for 3 hours in the dark. At the very bottom of the Phase 2 completion records, the most recent entries, the ones closest to the current date, there is a line item, project code, Manticore 7, description, deep space delivery vessel. Final crew complement confirmed. Departure scheduled per harvest window alignment. Funding source DAF 7. The same pool. The same money that does not officially exist. They built this ship with it. They paid my salary with it. Every piece of equipment I used to survive the last 14 months came from the same adjustment pool that built the cathedral. Every navigation update that routed us here, every system I relied on, Every calculation that put Manticore at bearing 274. I was a line item. My crew were line items. Manticore 7. Purchased with money that the United States Congress never voted to spend. That no taxpayer was ever told they paid. That does not exist in any audited financial record. That a professor at Michigan State found anyway, and that the world forgot about in 48 hours. I do not know what to do with that. I genuinely do not. I have spent 14 months finding things I did not know how to hold. The sleeping giants in compartment 00. The door Jack Parsons opened and never closed. The black night pointing at me. The cathedral cycling on its 44-minute interval. I learned to hold those things. It took time, but I learned. Just something about being a line item in a budget that does not exist, on a mission funded by money stolen from people who will never know it was taken, toward a structure that processed the workers who built it. Something about that is different. Because it makes it personal, not just for me, for you. The 21 trillion came from somewhere. It came from the economy you live in, from the infrastructure that did not get built, from the schools that ran short, from the hospitals that could not hire enough staff, from the retirements that fell short month by month, year by year, from every gap between what should have been possible and what actually was, from everything you needed that was not there when you needed it. That gap has a name. It is called the tapeworm. And it built a cathedral in deep space and sent me here to be processed by it. I am transmitting everything, the infrastructure allocation document, the Phase 2 completion records, the maintenance logs with the transition entries, the subledger with the consciousness units column, the line item from September 2001, the Black Knight navigation reference, the Manticore 7 entry. All of it going out on the long-range array right now. 4 months to reach a relay. 4 months to reach Earth. I do not know if anyone will be listening. I do not know if it will matter if they are. Dr. Skidmore found $21 trillion, and the world moved on in 48 hours. Maybe the same thing happens with this. Maybe the number is still too large. Maybe the picture is still too big. But I keep thinking about something. Skidmore found the 21 trillion using public data that anyone could access. He just looked at it differently. He asked a different question. Not where did this money go, but what does it mean that this money is missing? There is a different question available to you right now. Not what can I do about $21 trillion, but what does it mean that I now know? Because knowing changes things, not immediately, not obviously, but the frequency shifts. Every mind that receives this transmission and holds it, actually holds it, does not put it down for 48 hours, shifts the frequency by a small amount, almost unmeasurably small. But the architects have been waiting for the cumulative effect to reach a threshold, and I think we are closer than we have ever been. The cathedral cycles once every 44 minutes. The Black Knight transmits every 11 seconds. And I am still here, still transmitting, which means something. I think it means something. Captain Arthur Vance, Deep Space Vessel, Manticore. Line item Manticore 7. Purchased with money that does not officially exist, drifting towards the thing that money built. Still here, still recording. End of transmission.